Hello everyone, before we get started today, I just want to say a huge thank you for helping me get the channel to 2,000 subscribers. So as part of the 2,000 sub special, we will be soloing the game Pokemon Black with only a Mew. And this will also be a question and answer video. I asked all of you guys to leave me questions in my Discord, on my X, as well as the YouTube community section. So I will be answering every single question I got, but for now, let's get straight into the video. I figured before we start the Q&A, we're still going to treat this like a solo run video. So anyway, you may be wondering why I chose Mew. I figured it would make sense to do a mythical Pokemon, but I really don't want to do it in any of the older games, especially Leaf Green for example, since I already played Mew in that game. But when I recorded this video, I was in the middle of recording the playthroughs for Braviary and Mandibuzz, which all came out either earlier in the week or it will come out later, because this will come out on Wednesday. And Braviary would have been 2 days ago, and Mandibuzz will be on Friday. But anyway though, I was in the middle of playing Pokemon Black, so I figured, you know what, I'm gonna play Pokemon Black with Mew. So let's see what our moveset looks like. We start off with 3 moves, Pound, Reflect Type, and Transform. Reflect Type basically turns Mew into the same type as the opponent. We could use this to give us a resistance to some of the opponent's moves, or even give us Stab for a different move. For example, I could use Reflect Type on a Patrat, and all of a sudden Pound will get the same type attack bonus, so it will have some good uses later. And then throughout the levels, we get Mega Punch at level 10, and then Metronome at 20, and it's always in intervals of 10. And then we get Psychic at 30, then Barrier, Ancient Power, Amnesia, Me First, Baton Pass, Nasty Plot, and Aura Sphere. It is such a shame that Nasty Plot is at level 90 because we're never going to have access to that. And Amnesia only boosts special defense, not special like in Gen 1, so the move isn't going to be too useful. And via TM, as you can see on my overlay, this thing learns everything. I just put that text there because there was no way I could have room for all those TMs. Also, if we take a look at our stats, we have 100 in everything, and we are in the medium-slow level up group. So in the early game, we're going to be leveling up quite nicely. Even though we are running a mythical Pokemon in Mew, the early game of Pokemon Black and White is still going to be the same as with most other playthroughs, so I think while I fight some of the early game trainers leading up to Striaton City, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions. I've received a grand total of 10 questions across Discord, YouTube, and X. So I'll answer 3 right now, 3 halfway through the video, and then 4 near the end. So let's start with our first 3 questions. Austin in my Discord server, linked in the description, he asks, would you rather fight 1 Gyarados-sized Magikarp or 10 Magikarp-sized Gyarados? I guess I would rather fight 10 Magikarp-sized Gyarados, because a Magikarp that's like 20 feet tall, or however how tall Gyarados is, would probably be heavy enough to destroy buildings. But tiny Gyaradoses, they're going to be like, what, a feet tall? That's effectively like fighting a water snake. So I would rather take on the 10 Magikarp-sized Gyarados. Batel the Assistant on YouTube asks, congrats on reaching the 2,000 sub milestone. What is your favorite game genre, and what is my favorite game from that genre? I figured it should be somewhat obvious, but my favorite kind of genre are RPGs, and Pokemon is pretty much my favorite RPG. Although I do like action-adventure games such as the Zelda franchise, and I sort of like platformer games, but generally only the Kirby ones. I'm not really a fan of the Mario games too much, except for Mario Kart. I haven't played Mario Kart in a super long time though, but if you want to ask me what my favorite Pokemon game is, since RPGs are my favorite genre, then it's Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Last up is Elite 4 Alex in my Discord server. Will you race me sometime? Sure. Anyway, with those 3 questions out of the way, let's go take on the first gym leader of Unova, Chili. Chili leads off with his Lillipup. I'm level 14 for this fight, so I now have Mega Punch. I use Reflect Type to turn myself into the normal type, and now that I am a normal type, I get the same type attack bonus with Mega Punch, and then with 3 Mega Punches, I'm able to completely destroy Chili's team and get my first badge. After we defeat Chili, I have to clear out the Dream Yard like normal, defeat Charon right next to the daycare, catch my HM users in the Wellspring Cave, get this glitched out rare candy in the grass, and then we can head our way to Nakarine City. I am a bit worried about Lenora because Lenora tends to be the most difficult gym leader in Black and White because she has Herdier and Watchhog in the early game, which is just very OP. Plus, when you defeat her Herdier, her Watchhog will use a same type attack bonus, boosted Retaliate. And that's after her previous Pokemon fainted, so it's gonna hurt super bad. However though, after I defeated Chili, I did get the TM for Workup. It is effectively one of the only stat boosting moves you get by TM in the main story, because a lot of the other TMs that boost your stats like Hone Claws, Swords Dance, stuff like that, are all locked in the post game. Oh yeah, Bulk Up, Calm Mind, they're all locked in the post game. So Workup is effectively my best option. But let's see how it works out against Lenora. Lenora leads off with her Herdier. It hits me with Intimidate right away, but that's fine because that's what Workup is for. But first I'm going to use Reflect type to make myself the normal type, so Mega Punch, just like with Chili, will give me the same type attack bonus. And once I've used 3 Workups, I Mega Punch the Herdier, and then on the Watchhog, fortunately Mega Punch doesn't miss, I one-shot it, and Lenora is defeated. Alright, next up we have to go through the Pinwheel Forest, clear out all the Team Plasma Grunts, and then we can cross the Sky Arrow Bridge and make our way into Castelia City. There are a lot of useful items and TMs here that I could get if I wanted to. However though, I don't really choose to get any of them. The 2 main TMs here that I could want are Attract and Rest. Mew is genderless, so Attract is going to be completely useless. Plus, I'm pretty sure we're not going to need Rest this playthrough. Rest is only really for bad Pokemon in this game, so I'm probably just going to skip it. But one of the things is with Black and White, it may seem like I'm rushing through the story, but Black and White is mainly you just go to the next town, fight the gym, go to the next town, fight the gym. You might fight some Plasma Grunts in between. So why don't we just go skip ahead to the 3rd gym leader, Berg. Berg also tends to be one of the best gym leaders in Black and White, mainly because his Whirlipede and Levani can cause some issues. He leads off with his Whirlipede. I start off by using Reflect type to make myself Poison and Bug. This is actually strategic. Now that I'm Poison and Bug, he cannot poison me with Poison Point, and he's restricted from using his more powerful stab moves. And once I set up enough with Workup, I just spam Mega Punch, eventually knock out his Dwebble. I really should have used Rock Smash, but oh well. Then on the Levani, I use 1 more Mega Punch, and I knock out the Levani and get to level 25. Alright, so the next gym leader is Elisa. I don't think she's going to be that much of an issue. North of Castelia though, I do have to take out the mandatory Bianca and Charon rival battles. None of these battles really provide any problems from you, so I go ahead and deal with them, and then I can make my way to Nimbasa City. I do get a couple of things here. I go inside the Pokemon Center and I purchase the TM for return for only $10,000, which is honestly kind of a sweet deal. This move will deal more damage the higher friendship I have, and pretty much every Pokemon can learn it, and once you're at max friendship, it becomes a base power of 102, which is just downright broken, which is why most people when they do solo runs get this move. And if you guys are upset about how often solo runs use it, I mean, who knows, one day I might do a game where return doesn't exist, but definitely not anytime soon. I also go in this house, get the HM for strength, and then I head to the PC here and I withdraw my HM users. Shadow Stitch on YouTube, he mainly does Pokemon Black solo runs, so if you want to watch his stuff, go to his channel and tell him I sent you. His Black and White runs are pretty dang good. I learned a lot from him, and one thing I learned is, when you get to Nakarine City after you catch your HM users in Wellspring Cave, you can deposit them in the PC, you can skip the mandatory double battle in the forest, and you can just withdraw them in Nimbasa City, because in Black and White, you really don't need to use HMs that much. So I withdraw them, teach strength to my Pokemon, and then I have to defeat N by the Ferris wheel, and go take on the 4th gym leader, Elisa. Elisa also tends to be a difficult gym leader, but it's mainly if you're weak to electric or flying, which fortunately Mew is not, especially since I used Reflect type to become an electric flying type. It's honestly kind of a double-edged sword, because now I don't have the same type attack bonus with Psychic, plus I'm still neutral to Volt Switch. I believe the reason I did this was to try and prevent myself from being paralyzed, but in this generation, Pokemon that are electric type can still get paralyzed, so using Reflect type here was an absolute waste of time and it just made the fight harder. If I had just remained the Psychic type, Psychic would have actually knocked out that second Emolga, but hey, it may have been close, but I still beat Elisa first try. That is the closest any gym leader has come to finishing me today. I head on east to Route 16, I cut down this tree here and I can get myself a rare candy. Then I have to watch a sad cutscene, do another Charon fight, and then I can make my way past the Driftfell drawbridge and make my way into Driftfell City. Before Clay can challenge me to a gym leader battle, I have to go to the cold storage and clear out Team Plasma. Before I do that though, I go in the farmer's market and get the expert belt, and then in this trash can in the cold storage I can actually get a PP up, so I will definitely use that on Psychic whenever I get a chance. And then I go in the grass here, get the ether, and then I can head straight into the cold storage. There is a TM I would like to point out here though. You can actually get the TM for Scald here. You just have to go up, then right, then down on this ice, and this move will definitely be the solution for the 5th gym leader Clay. Obviously the Team Plasma grunts are not interesting, so let's go fight Clay. Clay leads off with his Krokorok. I start off by using one workup as I get hit with a bulldoze, and then I use return to one-shot it. Even though I did say Scald could help with this fight, I actually just forgot to teach it, and besides, I have Rock Smash on my moveset anyway, so I can just return the Krokorok, the Palpitoad, and just Rock Smash the Excadrill. I mean, Scald really wouldn't have made a difference. I mainly got that move just in case I needed it, but fortunately I did not. So now with Clay defeated, I have to go to Route 6, enter the Chargestone Cave, fight a bajillion Team Plasma grunts. This definitely does not get old. And then I can exit the cave on the other side, get to Mistralton City. And now before I can take on Skyla, I have to go up the Celestic Tower and ring the bell, which you all should do. And while I climb the tower, let's answer 3 more questions. Meta Mason in my Discord says, you run a peculiar channel centered around a niche sort of challenge runs, and while there are literally hundreds of Pokemon across the games, how do you plan on preventing potential burnout or loss of motivation? Well, I did have a loss of motivation last year around June after I released my Weedle and Crystal video. It wasn't really a burnout, it was mainly because I could not stand uploading and releasing content with the quality I was releasing them at. Because I feel like my gameplay could have been a lot better, my editing skills could have been a lot better, I could have had better looking intros, just make the videos look cooler. I couldn't stand releasing videos like that. Even though they were getting good views, I just couldn't push myself to do it, so I did take a 6-month break from uploaded videos. But during that time though, I did a lot of reruns offline through all the various games. That's why on my leaderboards, a lot of them have had second playthroughs that you'll never see. And now that I have done those re-ranks, and I have made new gym leader intros, and I changed up my thumbnail style and my voiceover style, I can actually make videos that I've dreamed of making. Ones that are good quality, ones that I can be proud of. So it was that was causing me to lose motivation. But in terms of actually producing runs, heck no. The reason I don't get demotivated is because I generally play games that not other solo runners generally play, because I would like to discover something in a game that people generally don't solo run. And maybe one day in the future, maybe when people become more nostalgic for Black and White or X and Y, people will want to do their own solo runs and make their own channels based off of it. I mean, I definitely inspired Shadow Stitch to start doing Gen 5 runs. He told me he learned a lot about Gen 5 through my runs, and that alone motivates me. Leaving comments also motivates me. So if you're willing to take 30 seconds to leave a comment, it makes my day. Someone TGL in my Discord says, what is my favorite IRL season as well as in the Gen 5 games? Well, in the Gen 5 games, my favorite season is Winter, because in Twist Mountain you can go through it quicker, get the substitute TM, and get a bonus rare candy. But in real life, it's honestly a toss-up between Summer and Winter. I like them both for completely different reasons. I like Summer because it's nice swimming weather, it always looks great outside, it stays light past 7 p.m., so that alone makes me happy when it's summer. But at the same time, the hot weather can really get to me. But in the winter, I really like it when we get snow, because I really like it when we get lots of rain and snow to prevent dry summers. Because where I live in northern Idaho, it can definitely cause those problems. But whenever it snows here, I'm glad about it. In fact, we have a lot of snow here right now. I know a lot of people in my job complain about it, but at the same time, I tell them, hey, I like it when we get all this rain and snow, so that way we don't get forest fires. And we've had some really bad years. I mean, at least we're not California. But anyway, winter or summer, they both have their ups and downs. Tireman on my Discord says, have you considered doing other types of challenges like no new moves, only steel type moves, etc.? Yes, actually. And I actually have. A few years ago, I did Pokemon Yellow with no EXP, and that video performed quite horribly. I think if I released it nowadays, it would perform a lot better, because that was back when my channel had like 400 subs or something like that. So I should definitely think about it, but I do worry about how it'll perform in the algorithm because my channel is generally based around solo challenges, but maybe it's worth doing it as a live stream or something. Anyway, we do have 3 more questions to get to later. We'll get to them before we face the final 5 trainers. But in the meantime, I rang the bell, so now let's go fight the 6th gym leader, Skyla. Skyla tends to be one of the worst gym leaders in Black and White because she only has 3 Pokemon. They're quite bad and their movesets are generally horrible. I mean, yeah, stab acrobatics can actually be threatening. If you're weak to flying moves, she can be hard. But to most Pokemon, she is barely even a challenge. But I will say, she is at least more of a challenge than the next gym leader, Bryson, aka the Lost Actor. His team is just pure ice types, and they're just very bad. The pure ice type is one of the worst typings in the game. Ice is only really good when it's on moves, or when it's paired with a different typing. But yeah, Bryson is just bad. But now, we can head inside Twist Mountain, and since it's winter, I can get myself the rare candy right here, get myself the TM for Substitute, which actually can help in the late game to block moves like Will-O-Wisp and Toxic, and then I can leave Twist Mountain and enter Icarus City. You want to see how bad the Lost Actor really is? Let's roll his intro and get started with the battle. Bryson leads off with his Vanillish. I start right away by setting up a couple of workups, and all he does is just use 1 Acid Armor, and then I one-shot him with Brick Break. I got the TM for Brick Break inside of Icarus City. There's a trainer in the Pokemon Center who gives it to you, and then with Brick Break taught, I can one-shot the rest of his team and defeat him. So yeah, he is quite bad. And now with Bryson defeated, this is the part of the game where you actually have to do some backtracking. I have to go in the Dragon Spiral Tower, fight a bajillion Team Plasma Grunts, and then I have to fly to Nimbasa, head to the Relic Castle, and fight a bajillion more Team Plasma Grunts. And then after all of that, in Nimbasa, I can get the Light Stone for the end of the game, and then head my way to Route 8. And then right here, I have to do my final battle with Bianca. Most of the Bianca battles aren't really that hard. Charon usually tends to be the harder rival, which in-game honestly makes more sense. But anyway, we don't have to really worry about Bianca, so I can just cross the Tube Line Bridge, head to Opelucid City, and then we can take on the final gym leader of Unova, Drayden. Drayden doesn't really tend to be a good gym leader, but he can be good if you don't have a way to deal with his team. But on his Fracture though, I use 1 workup, and then I can use Psychic to one-shot him, and then he sends out Druddigan, which also goes down to 1 Psychic, The reason I'm a super high level is because I've been holding on to the lucky egg for the last half an hour, so that's the reason I'm a high level. But the reason I prefer to be a higher level at this point is because once I get to the final 2 trainers, N and Getsus, that's when the difficulty really spikes and I want to make sure I'm prepared for them. But anyway, now that we have all 8 gym badges, Professor Juniper gives me a Master Ball for the Reshiram. I go on the grass right here and catch some Pokemon with some Ultra Balls that Professor Juniper gave me before Elisa. The reason I'm trying to get a full team is because if I make sure that my team is full, the Reshiram, once I catch it in front of N, will not be forced to slot one of my party and break my solo running rules. So I catch the Pokemon, defeat Charon for the last time, and then I can head my way through Victory Road and enter the Pokemon League. I could have technically had gotten Dragon Claw while I was in Victory Road, however I didn't get it because I'm pretty sure I don't need it. And now that we're in Victory Road, normally this is the moment where I would say we're gonna fight the supposed final 5 trainers. However though, there are still some questions I need to answer, but you know what? Why don't we do the supposed final 5 trainers, and then before we take on N and Getsus, we'll answer the final questions. Let's do this shit. I'm sure this wouldn't surprise any of you, but as a psychic type, I think it might be a good idea to take on Marshall first. He leads off with Throw. Fortunately, it doesn't have Sturdy. I go ahead and use 1 workup and then begin sweeping with Psychic. Although the fact that the Throw hit me with Bulldoze meant that the Mian Xiao can outspeed me, but it's not really a big deal though because Mew resists fighting moves. I just have to keep spamming Psychic until Marshall decides to quit spamming full restores, and then with his Conkeldurr down, Marshall is defeated. Next up is the Psychic Elite 4 member, Caitlyn. Caitlyn tends to have one of the better leads in the Pokemon League because her Reuniqueless has very powerful moves, including Thunder, which she actually uses and it paralyzes me. But fortunately, due to Synchronize, the Reuniqueless is paralyzed too, although she just uses a full restore on it anyway, so it didn't really matter. But then the paralysis ends up getting the best of me, and Musharna knocks me out with Shadow Ball, giving me my first reset in the entire playthrough on the Psychic Elite 4 member. Not even like the Dark type one or the Ghost type one, the Psychic one. I mean, it's just like Gen 1, the best way to take on Psychic types is other Psychic types. Fortunately, on the next attempt, she doesn't end up paralyzing me with Thunder, and because of that, her whole team is going to be a series of one-shots with Return. Next up is the Dark type Elite 4 member, Grimsley. I do sort of make a mistake here. It's usually a good idea to have Substitute for this fight because Grimsley's Scrafty has Sand Attack, and if I can block the Sand Attack to prevent my accuracy from being lowered, it can make the fight easier. However though, I end up forgetting that, and I do get hit with a Sand Attack, but fortunately I don't miss too many times, and I'm still able to knock out Grimsley's Pokemon. Next up is the Ghost type Elite 4 member, Chantal. She leads off with Cofagrigus. I have the moves Substitute and Shadow Ball on my moveset. I'm trying to use Substitute to block her usage of Will-O-Wisp, but she keeps breaking the Substitute with Shadow Ball, so I decide maybe I shouldn't even be using Substitute. But I realized that a bit too late because I'm at too low of HP for the Jellicent, and then her Jellicent knocks out Mew for my second reset in the entire playthrough. On the next attempt, I decide not to use a Substitute, and then I immediately get burned with Will-O-Wisp. Okay, dude, that is just so annoying. Like, whenever I decide not to use Substitute, then she decides to not attack and burn me. Jeez. Oh well, now that we've beaten the Elite Four, we need to take on N and Getsus. However, as I make my way through the Relic Castle, I'm going to answer the final 3 questions for this 2,000 subscriber special question and answer video. Zealous Pawn on my Discord says, What was your favorite run you've performed to date, and why was it Hitmonchan in yellow? Oh, ha ha ha, very funny. But in all seriousness, I think that my most favorite solo run I've ever done is probably either Shedinja in Leaf Green or Wobbuffet in Leaf Green. The reason I'd like to say either one of those, mainly for Wobbuffet, I've seen other people do a solo run with Wobbuffet in Fire Red and Leaf Green and they've actually determined it impossible, or that they just give up. But I was able to find a way to do it by purposefully catching 30 Pokemon to get the leftovers and spam struggle. And Shedinja is just because Shedinja had an extremely awful Brock split. My Shedinja playthrough on my leaderboard is roughly 4.5 hours, and literally 2 of those hours was just spent on the Brock split because Shedinja is a member of the erratic experience group, and in the early game, it levels up super slowly. And having to grind on Caterpies and Metapod for 2 hours is definitely something. So honestly, I think my favorite solo run that I've ever done should honestly be Wobbuffet in Leaf Green, just because other people have tried it and they couldn't do it. D1D016 on YouTube says, what is your favorite and least favorite run I've done? What run am I looking forward to? Well, I've already mentioned my favorite, but what was my least favorite run to do? I think y'all know what it is. Yeah, that thing. I mean, at least I won the race, but still, I freaking hate that thing. That thing looks like it has the potential to be fast, but that thing just doesn't have the stats for it. It gets so much coverage, it gets multiple different setup moves, but its stats are just so bad. But yeah, I freaking hate that thing. But what run am I looking forward to? I honestly don't know. There's just so many Pokemon in the game. I think something I really look forward to running is some sort of very bad first stage Pokemon. Although, earlier when I mentioned what my favorite solo run is that I've ever done, there is also another contender for that. It should be the modern Weedle playthrough I did in Pokemon Blue, as well as the one in Pokemon Crystal. But the one in Pokemon Crystal was inconclusive because of the special defense badge boost not working properly. But anyway, what run am I looking forward to? Just something that people will think will be very difficult, or at least something nobody's done yet. And my final question is from yours truly, Scott's Thoughts on YouTube. What Pokemon are you least looking forward to running? Okay, one that I really do not want to run, that I know people would want me to run. Honestly, I think people just wanting me to play Pyukumuku in other games. If you're wondering why Pyukumuku was bad, the thing is the pure definition of a pacifist. It's kind of like Wobbuffet, but worse. I only ever played Pyukumuku in Pokemon Fire Red as a backport, and that run took me 6.5 hours. It was literally slower than Wobbuffet. That's how bad it was. Wobbuffet had to farm for the leftovers. I mean, Pyukumuku had to as well, but I mean, it did get a ton of different moves I could choose from, but at the same time, this run was just so hard and just difficult. I really don't know if I want to play that Pokemon in any other game ever again, but I do know someone is going to ask for it one day. I just know it. But anyway, that's all the questions I've gotten. I'll probably do another question and answer video at 3,000 subs, so if you want to see me get there and have your question answered, please subscribe to the channel. Anyway, we need to take on Enengetsus, so let's do this, Hen. N leads off with his level 52 Zekrom, who will always use Fusion Bolt turn 1. I go ahead and use a singular workup, and Fusion Bolt only does a quarter, but then as I keep setting up more workups, Fusion Bolt hits me 2 more times, and now I'm in yellow health. Okay, this should be enough setup. Sadly, Shadow Ball only did half, and that was because Zekrom had Light Screen up. I literally have Brick Break on my moveset. I really should have just used Brick Break right away. And because of that mistake, the Caracosta is able to finish me off with Crunch. Fortunately, I do realize that mistake I made in the second playthrough. Fortunately, I do realize the mistake I made in the second battle, because I'm able to Brick Break the Zekrom right away, defeat the Caracosta, although I am in red health because that thing has Sturdy. But once I defeat it, his next 4 Pokemon are very easy to take out with Brick Break. Honestly, fighting type coverage is actually really good in Unova because of the abundance of ice, dark, and normal types. And now that N is defeated, we've got to take on the big boss man himself, Getsus. He leads off with Cofagrigus. I'm going to go ahead and use a turn 1 substitute, and he's just going to attempt to do nothing but set up Toxic like an idiot. But he does eventually try to figure it out, and he does get off 1 Shadow Ball. But anyway, it's not like it even matters. With +6 setup, I can Shadow Ball his Cofagrigus, Brick Break his Bisharp and his Electros, and then on the Bouffalant, I Brick Break it as well. And then on the Hydreigon, obviously I'm going to be using Brick Break. And then his final Pokemon is Seismitoad. I just keep spamming Brick Break, and once it's down, Mew has clocked in with a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 53 seconds, with 3 resets at level 73, with a game time after the credits of 4 hours and 34 minutes. Mew actually played quite nicely, although it didn't perform as good as other legendary Pokemon like Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem. But the only reason those Pokemon did really well is because they started with Dragon Rage. But Mew had to start off with Pound and Mega Punch as our only moves for the first several gyms. So that fact alone honestly really held this thing back. But once I got access to Return and then Psychic with Workup, it just completely destroyed everything. Although I did have some resets near the end, but that was mainly due to player error. However though, this isn't the end for Mew. Since this is a Pokemon Black video, I will actually be doing some bonus sections. We are going to be attempting the post-game fight against Cynthia. So let's go ahead and take on the champion of Sinnoh. I take on Cynthia right away the moment I get into Undella Town. She leads off with her level 75 Spiritomb. I go ahead and use a substitute right away as she just sets up Double Team. Although she did stop using Double Team to hit me with Shadow Ball just to break my substitute. So I may just have to let her set up all of the Double Team she wants. And then I use Shadow Ball on it, and sadly it ends up living. And now I'm in the process of constantly missing my moves. I only set up to +5 when I use Shadow Ball. I think if I had used +6, I would have been able to one-shot it. Let's see. On the second attempt at Cynthia, I actually do get to +6, but then her Spiritomb uses Will-O-Wisp on me, which I had no idea it even had, so I end up getting burned and I get another reset. I just need a run where I can set up all 6 of my workups without getting burned. I mean, I should have went and gotten a Rostberry or something, but I don't believe I had one on me at the time. I mean, I don't know, I didn't really check, but I should have at least done that. Because once I defeat the Spiritomb at +6 setup, the rest of her team should be easy, I believe. After several more resets of just dying to the Spiritomb because of burn, I do grind to level 75 over the next damage rounding threshold. But however though, her Spiritomb, even at +6, is still not dying to a single Shadow Ball. So yeah, that is a huge problem I'm having. I, however, did come up with an idea. I go back to the Celestic Tower, and I go ahead and get myself the Spell Tag. This will boost the power of Ghost-type moves by 20%, so maybe, just maybe, the 20% boost will be enough to one-shot the Spiritomb at +6 with Shadow Ball. And at 10 resets into the run, +6 workup with Shadow Ball is enough to one-shot the Spiritomb as well as the Electros. But then the Garchomp outspeeds me, I get to 6 HP remaining, and then I am able to one-shot the Garchomp. And then the Braviary gets defeated, and then on the Milotic, I use Brick Break because its physical defense is lower than its special defense. Then on the Lucario, I go for Brick Break, and I forgot Extreme Speed. Oh my god. On the very next attempt, I am able to get to the Garchomp at full health, and I easily had the power to completely destroy her, but I end up resetting. This is because I want to do something fun. I was doing this run in my Discord, and Axio and Shadow Stitch actually came up with a very fun plan for Spiritomb. I really wanted to just do it just to flex. I mean, this fight isn't even counted in the time anyway. So what I do is I go ahead and use Reflect type to turn myself into a Ghost and Dark type. So now I don't even need the spell tag unless I just want to have it. So now what I'm going to do is I can go into the fight with a Rost Berry, use Reflect type to turn into the Ghost type. So instead of a 20% boost to my Ghost moves, I can get a 50% boost because of the same type attack bonus. Shadow Ball will one-shot the Spiritomb, and because of my typing, she actually sends out my low tick next, which is actually kind of interesting. I used Brick Break on it, it lives in red health, but that was because I forgot to use my 6th workup. But once I remember to do that, the my low tick goes down, as well as her Braviary. Then on the Garchomp, I go ahead and use Shadow Ball right away because it will be the better move. It outspeeds me with Earthquake, fortunately not doing too much, and then I can one-shot it, as well as the following Electros. And last up is her Lucario. She can't extreme speed her way out of this. I defeat the Lucario, and Cynthia is defeated. Thank you all for watching, everyone. I will see you all in the next video.